Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
All right, we do that better. Good afternoon, everybody. This is a theater event, guys. Well, welcome to the wonderful TPAC. Thank you to TPAC for hosting us for our Section 230 meeting, just kind of creating the beginning of the journey of the TPAC leads through council. As many of y'all know, this is part of the process to have this community meeting, and then we'll have the first reading this evening. Second reading will be coming on the 16th with associated committees, and hopefully final reading in January on January 20th. But I am both a theater kid and full of puns, so please bear with me as I do this introduction, and if you pick them up, kudos to you. December 4th, 2 p.m., I'm running this meeting without a script. Thank goodness we made it to this day. We couldn't be happier to share this deal with you. You'll likely want to hear how we're going to pay for the infrastructure. I'm confident with this presentation you'll be satisfied. I hope my colleagues won't say no to this and will realize that TPAC wants to say there's a place for us. So I'm going to bring Tom Cross up. Thank you for talking about the infrastructure, the process, and all that jazz. Tom Cross.
Thank you very much, Councilman Cooper. And I don't have any poetry in my part of this. This hearing is required by a relatively recent provision added to the Metro Code, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and there really haven't been more than 2 or 3 of these. So for every lease involving property that's worth more than $1 million, this is a required part of the process, but there's not really a script for it. So what I plan to do is talk about the 2 primary documents that the council will be considering. There's actually a third, but not really all that important for purposes of this meeting. And you're welcome to ask questions either while I'm talking or when I'm done. Again, there's not really a script. So most major commercial real estate transactions where somebody is building a structure on somebody else's property involve 2 primary documents. One is a development agreement and one is a ground lease, and that's what we have here today. Metro's major stadium projects have worked like this too. The development agreement basically sets out how the project is going to get built and who is responsible for building the major components of it and the infrastructure that supports it. So what we have clearly is a development agreement that speaks to the construction, design, funding of a new performing arts center on the East Bank. And most of the development agreement has to do with that. There are also major infrastructure components that have to be built as well to support the facility. And TPAC is going to be responsible for some of those, and Metro is going to be responsible for others. The cost of the infrastructure elements is divided in accordance, of course, with who is building what, and the party that is building, for example, a roadway segment or a pipeline is also responsible for the cost overruns, should there be any. There are a couple of conditions that have to be met in order for the development agreement to go live, and it has to be approved by the council, clearly in TPAC's board. But also there's some major milestones that we have to also pass, and one of them is about a year from now, by December 31st, 2026, TPAC has to show that it has the funding in place to carry out its side of the bargain, and Metro has to show that it has funding and a plan in place to do the things that it needs to do, including the major work on the pedestrian bridge. If those things are satisfied by December 31st, 2026, then TPAC has to start construction on its facility by the end of June in 2027 and finish within 60 months, though the hope and expectation on everybody's part is that it will not take nearly that long. On Metro's side of that, assuming that Metro shows that it has a plan in place and funding in place to do its part, and for the development agreement, one of the most important pieces is a pedestrian bridge, both because it's important to the overall East Bank development, but also because the work on the bridge has to be done in order to allow space for a new alley that has to be done in order for TPAC to access its back of house. So Metro's plan has to show that it's able to do those things in time for the TPAC facility to open. So assuming all that happens and the facility gets built, then the second document comes into place, and that is the lease. This is a ground lease, so TPAC is building its facility, gets full use of it for an initial term of 35 years with two 30-year options to extend after that. They're paying just nominal rent, though they are contributing $400,000 a year towards Metro's infrastructure commitment over the first 15 years, so for a total of $6 million. One of the most important features of the lease is that Metro will be able to use the facility 30 times a year as long as it doesn't conflict with scheduled TPAC events, which is of course great for lots of things, but not least of which is Metro's schools and specifically the School for the Arts. So I went through pretty quickly. I'm happy to answer questions that you may have, but that's sort of the 30,000-foot view of the two primary documents that council is going to be considering. If you don't have questions, the Mayor's Chief of Staff, Masami Tyson, has, I think, also got a few words to say.
Good afternoon, everybody. I also was a theater kid, but I'm not going to perform today. As a 30-year resident of Nashville, I have always loved TPAC and the shows that it has offered over the years, and so I was very glad to be a part of this as a representative of Metro in the Mayor's office, along with Tom Cross and some of my colleagues in the Mayor's office to come to this point with the agreement. Tom has already explained the major points of the agreement, so I will just leave it at that. But this is such a great day. We have a lot of more work to be had. As Tom explained, we have to make sure that this is approved both by TPAC and the council, as well as other steps that are required by laws and regulations. But otherwise, this is what we have to present to you today, and we're happy to take questions. Thank you.
Does TPAC want to, do we want to do Metro questions first and then have TPAC go, or?
Whichever way you'd like, Councilman.
Let's have TPAC do their piece and
Okay.
then we'll do questions at the end.
Then I am happy to introduce to you TPAC's CEO and President, Ms. Jennifer Turner.
Much. We're so appreciative of you being here and being interested in the project. I'm here to tell you a little bit about TPAC. We are a 45-year-old nonprofit that was established when Martha Ingram and a group of volunteers went to the state and asked them to build a performing arts center. And they lifted up the office building they were planning, which is where we're in today, and they put in a 3-venue performing arts center. This was a true public-private partnership. It was combined with the state funding the facility and then private fundraising from across the state. And so together, they were able to create this wonderful entity that has served the community for 45 years. I've left our mission and our vision up there, but we do serve the community. We champion excellence in the performing arts and arts education. We have resident companies, community partners, and we are an inclusive place to enjoy meaningful and relevant experiences. I'll tell you a little bit about our programming. We have a Broadway series. We do dance, theater, family, variety, all kinds of things. We also partner with a lot of arts organizations across the city. We are known for our Broadway series, and we are proud to recognize record subscription numbers this year. So we're very happy about that. We are the performance home of 3 resident companies, the Nashville Opera, the Nashville Ballet, and the Nashville Repertory Theater. They are all performing, or at least the Repertory Theater and the Ballet are performing upstairs this week with their holiday programming. We are a national leader in arts education and community programs that are housed here at TPAC, but also out in the community. Some of our major programs, the Spotlight Musical Theater Awards, our Arts Access Program, our camps, and our arts and wellness program, Magic Therapy. One of our long-standing programs, our Season for Young People, is known as the HOT program. It brings students from across the state to performances here at TPAC. And for many kids, we call them HOT kids or Season for Young People, it is their first time they get to experience a live performance, and it's here at TPAC, and they remember it for the rest of their lives. And now I'd like to bring up Tawana Hammonds, D, the Dean of Fine Arts at Warner Arts Magnet, and she's just going to tell you a little bit about one of our marquee programs, Disney Musicals in Schools.
Thank you. I too am a theater kid. I love applause. Thank you so much. So yes, I am Dee Hammonds, Dean of Fine Arts at Warner Arts Magnet School, one of MMPS's arts magnet schools, the only elementary one. I have been a participant of the DMIS program for 15 years, which is pretty remarkable. So many different schools I have had the privilege of being the music teacher, and every school I've ever been a music teacher, I have brought in the Disney Musicals in Schools program. Why? Because simply put, it changes lives. It changes the lives of kids. It really builds confidence in students. Like, I see some of the shyest children come into our program, and then all of a sudden they are on stage. Some of them are still a little timid, but they begin to come out of their shells. We hear parents give us reports about how their kids were afraid to, be public speakers, and now they're looking people in their eyes. We see students who might have difficulties working with other students, but through this program, not just sports, but they're learning how to be a part of a team. So it truly does change lives. And then I have run into some of my students who were a part of the program 15 years ago, who are now beyond college, who talked to me about just how impactful the program was to them, because it really did just kind of light a fire either in performance arts for them. And if they don't major in any sort of arts programming, they are more successful on their jobs in whatever field they're in because they participated in programs like this. I'll say one last thing. Today when I walked in the room, I saw a parent of a student that I had, I think maybe 13 or 14 years ago. He was in my very first Disney Musical in Schools program. I did not know that was going to happen, but he began to share with me that student, incredible student, he was so talented, and it was because of students like him that I said, we need to do something more. Just being in the classroom is not enough. We need to offer more programming because there's talent here. And so he auditioned to be a part of the program, blew us away with his rendition of Happy Birthday, and then he became one of the lead characters in our production of Aristocats. Well, he went on to study at Berkeley College. He is now working for John Mayer in LA, and his dad is in this room today as a part of this team. So that is the power of what TPAC is doing, and we need to do whatever we can to get behind them to uplift this programming. Thank you so much.
I wasn't a theater kid, and I don't know if I can follow that, but I'm going to keep going. Thank you, Dee, so much. We're so proud of our Disney Musicals in Schools program. I mentioned we are a national leader in education programs. We are the first site for Disney Musicals in Schools outside of New York. So when Disney developed this program and wanted to bring it to performing arts organizations across the country, they chose TPAC as their first site. And so we have been leading this program and working hard, and also training and teaching our fellow arts organization leaders across the country on how to administer this program in their own community. So TPAC today, we are a vital active center. We are grounded in sound financial stewardship and a business model that supports long-term stability. We welcome over 400,000 patrons, students, and artists year-round, so we are an active center. We do almost 400 events a year in our multiple spaces. We program all year round, so we don't take a break. In fact, holidays and weekends and all that is probably our busiest time. We create jobs, we help our region attract businesses, and we generate visitor spending. In 2021, the state made the decision to decommission the James K. Polk building, the building we're in today, providing TPAC an incredible opportunity to build an independent home that would welcome generations to come. The state provided a $500 million grant towards our now $620 million project, and that number includes the public infrastructure. The state matches 5-1 on the first 100 million of private fundraising. And this state grant, the private fundraising, and now Metro's land contribution are all the foundation of an impactful public-private partnership that will serve our community for years to come. And we are so grateful for everyone working together to make this a possibility for our community. TPAC has engaged an incredible project team. Our architects, our theater consultants, our general contractors, they are definitely world-class, and they are working on this incredible venue that you're gonna absolutely love. I am gonna start by showing you a little bit of the site. We are located, or we will be located, right next to the pedestrian bridge, bordered on the other side by Victory Avenue. This is a sketch taken from the East Bank Vision Plan, so you can see over to that side where Oracle will be, and now with the scrapyard developing over that way. I'm sure the Fallon buildings will change a little bit, but right now this is sort of the general idea of our location and our placement within this new development. This is a site diagram that I wanted to share because it shows a little bit of the connections. So you can see the TPAC, this is just sort of an example of where the TPAC building will lay on the site. You've got some green space ahead of it. If you look, the pedestrian bridge will connect directly to the TPAC building, so you'll be able to access the building off the pedestrian bridge. And then there will be staircases on either side so that people can get down into the development from the pedestrian bridge on both sides. There's green space as you enter on the ground level off Victory and what is now Davidson. And then we have nice park connections both to the riverfront and then also to Wasiota Park over behind the pedestrian bridge. We'll also have access to that big park in the middle, and we are looking forward to working with the Fallon Company and the Titans and our neighbors on making that a very active area through programming and free events for the public and all the things that we can bring to this area. Here is a concept design rendering of the view looking across the river. You can see that arrival area connecting to the river that I talked about when you first came in, and then the pedestrian bridge is behind you there. This is a little bit of a closer up view, so you can see as you're walking through the landscaping into the entrance of the building. This is a concept of our large theater. We have a great architect that is known for performing arts centers around the country, William Raw & Associates, that has taken the lead on designing the interiors. So the main question we get is, will you have a center aisle? And we are happy to report that we will have center aisles. A lot of great opportunities for bringing the audience closer to the stage and closer to the performers. Lots of front rows and great views into the house. This is the mid-size hall. This is a more intimate space, replacing the James K. Polk Theater that we currently have here. This is designed with accessibility in mind so that artists, performers, patrons can traverse this entire hall very easily and breaking down some of the barriers between artists and performer. This is the Flex Theater, so this is kind of the replacement of what we're sitting in right now, and you can see the different configurations. There's a end stage, arena stage, using the side banks here, and then set up for a more private event here. So it truly is a flexible space and has a lot of versatility. So we talked a little bit about the project and what the project will mean not only to TPAC but the community. The TPAC of tomorrow is going to create more jobs, economic opportunity. It will have increased programming, education, community events, space for local arts organizations and event space. It will be an architecturally significant cultural landmark that will draw visitors and locals. Part of our business model for our long-term growth will be to grow our Broadway programming. We know that there's a lot lot of opportunities to serve our local artists and our local community through access to this Performing Arts Center. Our community is ready for a world-class Performing Arts Center. It's an extraordinary opportunity for us to expand access to theater, bring our community together through shared experiences, and help shape a vibrant new neighborhood. And as the steward of our Performing Arts Center, TPAC, together with you, will create a dynamic cultural anchor that our entire community can celebrate. I want to thank Councilmember Jacob Coopan, Mayor O'Connell, and the Mayor's Office. Masami and Tom, thank you for being here today. Speaker Cameron Sexton in the state of Tennessee, and our community. You are the ones that have supported us for 45 years, and we are so grateful for your continued support and your advocacy and your desire to see TPAC continue for generations to come. Once again, we will create a great public-private partnership that will bring to life a cultural center that the city and state will be proud of. We are looking forward to beginning this important process and presenting this project to Metro Council, and we are looking forward to their input and guidance as we move this through. Thank you.
Can I get this? There we go. Jennifer, if you want to stay up here, and then, well, thank you all for the presenters this afternoon, and thank you all for being here. I know there are folks that do have questions, so if y'all will raise your hand, and then I'll come to you with the mic, and then we can ask our wonderful panelists here if there are any questions. And thank you for reminding me, without realizing you reminded me, we are joined by Councilman Parker and Councilman Cap, both East Bank council members, so appreciate y'all being here. Councilman Parker's got a question.
Thank you, Councilmember Coopan, and for everybody for presenting. Lots of really exciting stuff to consider. So I had a couple of questions, and this is probably either for Masami or for Tom. Do we have an estimated value of the ground lease, like what do we have an estimate of the value of the initial term of that, at least? I know it's very hard to project past that initial term, but do we know that?
Sort of indirectly, we know what the property is worth because we had an appraisal done, which the same section of the code requires. That's about 42 million. Their investment is 600 million, but no, we don't have a. If I'm getting your question correctly, what the value of the leasehold interest is.
Okay, thank you. The value of the property is interesting. Thank you. And so when I'm reading through the document kind of on a first pass, I don't see on the infrastructure splits, I don't see like number estimates. So it's not like Metro is responsible for 45 and they're responsible for 51. I don't see that anywhere in the documents. So is that spelled out, or is it more just that there are responsibilities of each party and those will be met by each party kind of regardless of the price? And then if there are price caps or anything like that, is it contemplated who pays for overages if like projects go over whatever each party has contemplated?
The development agreement does not have prices in it. It has responsibilities assigned for specific infrastructure components. So Metro has a list, TPAC has a list. We have estimates for all of it, but it costs what it costs. And the party responsible for any specific infrastructure element is also responsible for cost overruns to that same element.
That makes sense. Thank you. Just a couple more here. So one of the priorities identified in the Memorandum of Understanding was to maintain bike and pedestrian access throughout any modifications to the pedestrian bridge. I think that's even like for Titans fans, I think that's become more important. I think they're spending less time in the parking lots before games and more time downtown. So just for folks to access the existing Titan Stadium, the new Titan Stadium, we've got commuters that use that thing all the time. That's not in the agreement though, so how are we contemplating maintaining access throughout construction on the bridge?
The designs for the bridge are still underway. Everybody recognizes that that's a really important factor for making that part of the project successful for the whole city, and particularly people who use the bridge to get to the games and to commute. That's going to be part of the design work going forward.
Okay, but I mean, there's two stakeholders that are going to be doing a lot of that work on the bridge that are signing a development agreement right now. So, you know, I would definitely like us to look at that, if that's a possibility, to bake that into the development agreement. And then kind of dovetailing from that, looking at the stuff in the development agreement about the bridge, you know, there's these two concepts. There's alleyway access, which is, you can't have a venue that doesn't have back of house access. I understand that. You know, as contemplated in the sketches, you know, it's this new extension of Davidson Street with an alley coming off of it. In a universe where plans change, could that alley access go like across where the concession area is now, sort of underneath the existing bridge to reach the rear of the facility, or does it have to be, according to this agreement, that Davidson extension to get to that defined alleyway access piece in the development agreement?
The agreement isn't really that specific about how that's going to be achieved. It's Metro's responsibility to make sure that it actually does happen.
Thank you. And then my last question, I promise. The other sort of term that's contemplated about what will happen to the pedestrian bridge is sort of, I forget the exact wording, but something like as contemplated in Imagine East Bank. So by agreeing to that language, does that oblige us to do the full extension all the way to the mouth of the new Titan Stadium? Or could that be modified? As you said, the design is still being contemplated. Is there a version where the bridge does not extend that far, where it stays kind of more substantially similar to its current state?
The expectation is it's going to be extended as the vision plan contemplates. I mean, that document is the one that everybody has been shooting for and trying to achieve. So it would take a pretty substantial change in policy, and I'm sure the council would be involved in it to do something substantially different.
So the language in this development agreement does oblige us to do what's in the Imagine East Bank document, but if we wanted that vision to be different, we would have to modify the Imagine East Bank document. Is that?
I think that would be a good way to do it, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Right? Anybody else has questions? On the other side of the room. Y'all talk amongst yourselves as I cross.
Hey, I'm Catherine McDonald. I'm an East Nashville resident, neurologist at Vanderbilt, and I have a daughter at Warner, so definitely appreciate the, the shout out to their amazing theater program. My question is also about the pedestrian bridge, kind of confirming what Councilman Parker was asking about. So in the MOU that was signed last February, there was very clear language saying that this bridge would continue to have uninterrupted access throughout this process, including during construction. That has been reiterated at multiple public meetings throughout this process, including East Bank Committee meetings, the previous Section 230 meeting about this, and that has been the message that has been very clearly expressed, I think, for over a year. I use the bridge every day to get my kids to school, and again, having access to that is really, really important. I was also concerned that I did not see that same language in the agreement that was signed a couple of weeks ago. So I'm wondering, was that requirement dropped? If so, why was it dropped? And how can we make sure that this bridge stays accessible for the people who live here and work here and rely on this bridge every day?
It's not in the document, or either of the documents, because it's not really a commitment that Metro is making to TPAC. And Masami may want to add to this, but everybody on Metro side and everybody who's in your position in the Titans want and expect the bridge to remain open at all times during construction and otherwise. But it's not a commitment that TPAC is relying on to do its work. I'm sure they want to see that the bridge stays open too, but their Village Performing Arts Center, they understand that the commitment to keep the bridge open at all times is more something that Metro has committed to the community.
Thank you. I think it was worded in the MOU as TPAC had made this commitment, so I just wanted to clarify.
Well, I just wanted to add that the mayor has publicly acknowledged that this is very important to him and to this community, and therefore important to him, and that commitment still stands. Nothing has changed.
Thank you.
Just one other thing that's related to that, but one of the original design concepts, and it may have been in the MOU or it was around that time, involved the bridge forming part of TPAC's roof. And that has changed over time, so that the TPAC will be connected to the bridge, but not really part of the bridge. And that also affected some of the design concepts.
Hey, my name is Manon. I live out east. So in the previous agreement with TPAC, there were certain responsibilities defined for infrastructure costs on TPAC. Could you explain in detail why TPAC's financial responsibility for any infrastructure cost overages has been changed, and what the final legally binding breakdown for those overages would be now?
This is this negotiation, so we started in one place and worked with TPAC to find a deal that everybody thinks is fair, and that wound up, and partly as a result of the change in the concept for the TPAC in its relationship to the bridge. And Metro has agreed to take on the responsibility for the bridge, and there was some reallocation of responsibility for who does what piece of Victory and Davidson Drive, who moves a Piedmont gas line on the property, but those things didn't move all that substantially. The main element that moved was the bridge. And you're speaking of overages. I'm going to reiterate what I said to Councilman Parker, and that is the party who's responsible in the development agreement for building whatever element it is, the TPAC or part of Victory, part of Davidson, is also responsible for the cost overruns if there happen to be any.
Hello, my name is Ingrid Campbell. I'm a member of East as well, District 5 specifically, partially, is that better? Okay, my name is Ingrid Campbell. I'm a resident of East Nashville, District 5 specifically, and a little bit of 6 at one time or another, but also involved with the TPAC steering committee and some other functions that we have dealing with Nashville. My question as a resident of, an engaged resident with many of the communities in East Nashville, is understanding how we are affected by parking. So my question is the allocation of parking spaces to the development of the property. What are they? What does it look like?
I'll take a shot at that. The parking, you have to go all the way back to the Metro contracts with the Titans. They're currently, or I guess it's changed even since that deal was approved based on the construction, but originally there were 7,500 surface parking spaces. Our commitment to the Titans is to keep at least 2,000 available at all times. As it affects TPAC, we're committed to trying to facilitate their use of parking spaces if they're available, which presumably there will be if there aren't major stadium events going on. So there ultimately will be fewer surface parking spaces by quite a margin, but we also understand that TPAC needs places to park too. And so the commitment is essentially to help try to facilitate their use of spaces among those 2,000 that are not being otherwise used for stadium events. Did I answer your question?
It did. Not the way that I thought it should be, but that's just my opinion. Okay, thank you. Oh, secondary. Just kind of, because we talked about maybe an outdoor theater or amphitheater or something like that during the summertime. Is that part of the construction? Will there be outdoor amphitheater?
Thanks, Ingrid. There is an outdoor amphitheater at Wasiota Park that it's obviously owned by the city or Metro Parks, and we would be delighted to help, programming that space. We'll have some outdoor performance space in the arrival area outside on the main level coming into the venue, And then there's also the large park that is planned for the middle of the venue, which I believe the Titans and Fallon and others will all be instrumental in programming events and things for community in those spaces.
Are you part of that programming for them? Are you helping them as well?
Well, our deal hasn't been approved yet,
Okay.
but if we are successful in moving this through council and we are able to secure the site and move forward, then we would be delighted to start sitting down and talking about, all of the neighborhood things, joint parking and programming and activation and all the things.
Anybody else? Sure. Councilman Cap?
Thank you, Councilmember Kubin, for hosting us and everybody for presenting. I have two questions. They're probably for TPAC. They're sort of design and programming related. So I understand that the contemplated design of the bridge has changed and some of the financial obligations have changed sort of correspondingly. But I was interested to hear that you are still thinking that the pedestrian bridge, or still intending for the pedestrian bridge to connect physically to TPAC. I didn't see, I might have missed it, but I didn't see it indicated on the designs where. Maybe that's not designed yet, but I think my question is, how does that, how does TPAC see that as being sort of important to the functioning of the Performing Arts Center and the use of the space, those specific bridge connections?
Sure. You are correct. The design has changed since we were in the MOU phase, and we had much of the program and part of it underneath the bridge, and we've since pulled the building away from the bridge. So it will still connect on that level. We are, excited to have that as an additional entry point as well as the main level, and then we can provide circulation down from the pedestrian bridge using staircases on either side of us to move patrons out into the development. And I can move back to a slide to kind of show you that. We don't have the design completed yet, so it is still in concept, but we are working through those connection points and working on with Fallon and those that are designing the bridge to understand where those connections are and how the building can connect to it. But our expectation is that it's going to be sort of on a next second level for us, and then there will also be entry level at sort of outside the Victory and Davidson corner.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd love to see where you're thinking they will go. And I think my real question is, how essential are those connections to the flow and use of the building?
I think that we feel that the connections are very important because the more ways we can get people into the building, the better, and disperse them through the different Performing Arts Center. I mean, here we have the entrance off 6th Avenue and we have the entrance off Dedrick. And those are really the two ways that people can get into the building and then move them through to the different areas. So on this diagram, you see at the bottom, the Music City Mile is the pedestrian bridge. And there looks like we're gonna bring the building right up to that. So there'll be like a little entry point and then you can enter off that level. That is again off the upper level, and then there will be stairs kind of going from either side that will take you down to the park area, and then entrances on the front. This was also very important to Metro as we were kind of going through the design process with them from a concept perspective, is to have the building activated on all 4 sides. Usually that's really hard because we have fly towers and we have back of house loading, but with this particular design and being able to come up to the pedestrian bridge, we have the opportunity to create an alley that we can do loading in so that it really is a building that is activated on all 4 sides. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and thank you. And my second question is, one of the things I love about TPAC and really appreciate is your commitment to public programming and access to the public. And since this is city land and the city's heavily involved in facilitating this to happen, my question is, and I know this is a sincere commitment, but I'd hope you could talk a little bit to how those public commitments are memorialized in this agreement about public access over time and the school programming and potential use of space for community groups and stuff like that.
There is a number that was to put in an agreement. You have to come up with something to put in an agreement, but it was a pretty easy discussion because we are already doing so much programming. We do tons of programming with Metro, just not only through our school programs, but we host the music program. We did the record release. We did a lot. We do a lot of specific programs. In addition to Metro, we also work with a lot of local arts organizations, and we provide subsidized rental and access for those organizations. We provide, obviously, our 3 resident companies, and we provide subsidized access for those resident companies as well. But it is a strong commitment. It's part of our nonprofit mission. If we were a for-profit entity, then we would just be doing commercial programming. But because we are nonprofit, we have a mission and we have a commitment. We pour those resources into making the arts accessible for everyone. And through that is programs that we create to make those things possible.
Yes, and I appreciate that. Those commitments are really important to the community, and I'm grateful to you for seeing that. I know it's part of your mission. Is it something that you are committing to in this document to continue in perpetuity, for the duration of this lease?
I can let Tom answer that. I don't know if there is a spot specifically in the lease to talk about a commitment on how we would program, but I know that the Metro events were important, and the intention behind those is that those would be community or education focused.
So and I agree with that characterization. There's a 30-day-a-year minimum commitment to specific public use, but you're talking about something that's slightly different than that. The lease doesn't speak to that exactly, but there is some general language in the lease about, first-class performing arts facility. It does what other first-class performing arts facilities do, and that's part of it.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, I'll look forward to reviewing that, but I appreciate your commitment to that, seriously, from TPAC. Thank you.
Anybody else? You've got till I walk down. Well, would y'all join me in giving these folks a round of applause for all the work that they've done? I know this has been a long time coming, and a lot of folks working incredibly hard, burning the candle at both ends to make this happen. We've heard about the incredible shows and productions that TPAC puts on for the general public, but also the impact that it has on the kids of our city and the school children of our city and so many community members. So really excited to see these next steps. Thank you all for coming out, and just want to say thank you all to all you guys. Appreciate it.